Roll for Crit is made possible thanks to the support of viewers like you and our patrons on our Patreon page.
You can become a patron for just $1 a month at patreon.com/rollforcrit.
It's time to steel your nerve and get ready for some action, because on this week's board game review, we're taking a look at Aliens Bug Hunt from Upper Deck. This game is based on the Aliens movie, in which you will take on a role of Marines trying to complete objectives and make it back to the APC before it's too late and you are swarmed by Xenomorphs.
1 to 4 players will be attempting this game cooperatively. At the start of a turn, you're going to draw a card from the phase deck, and depending on which color it is, that will determine which player takes their turn next. On your turn, you will first have the option to move. You have 3 movement points to spend, and you can move throughout the different location tiles that you'll be discovering that make up the board of Bug Hunt. If you go into an empty space, you will reveal a brand new tile randomly drawn from the tile stack and move on to it, and that will end your movement even if you had movement points left over. Some areas are blocked off by these barriers. If you want to go through a barrier, that's going to cost you 2 of your movement points. So if there are too many of them later in the game, it's going to be harder for you to move around. New tiles may also have certain icons on them, which will tell you to put Xenomorphs, represented by dice, or objective tokens, which we'll explain in a little bit. Once you have finished with your movement, you get to take 1 action of your choice from 4 available options. You can shoot if there are Xenomorphs in your space or in an adjacent space. You will use your characters to shoot. Each player has 3 different characters. Generally speaking, 2 of them will be grunts, while 1 will be a special named character that you'll recognize from the movie, and each one has a firepower rating, and you will deplete them by moving them down on your board, and that means you're activating them for this attack, and whatever the combined number of their firepower is, that's how many Xenomorph dice you get to roll. So first you'll roll the ones in your space, and then if there are any in adjacent spaces, you will roll them later on if you still have firepower left over. If you roll those dice and you get a blank, congratulations, you have killed an alien. They're removed from the board and they go back to your dice pool. If you end up with these claw marks, that means they're still alive, and if you get this red alien bite symbol, then they aren't only just still alive, they also are attacking you. You will take a wound token, place it on one of the characters that were in play. If they take too many wounds equal to their health value or their armor value, then you will eventually have to start flipping those tokens, and if you reveal a token with the KIA icon, that character is dead, so you don't want that to happen. Once you have 1 or more characters depleted, you're not going to be able to use them for combat, so another action you can take on your turn is to ready any of those characters, move them back up to the top of your board so they're ready for action again. You can also use an action to breach those barriers I mentioned earlier. You place a token on top of it, now it only costs you 1 movement point to get through it, and you can shoot at aliens in an adjacent tile. You can't do that if they're blocked off by a barrier. Finally, there are those objective tokens on the board. You can use an action to capture one in your space. You'll be placing it onto one of 3 mission cards that you have available. Each game is going to have specific ones with specific abilities. You can use a mission token, flip it over if it's on one of those cards, and activate that ability, depending on when it says you can. It may allow you to move characters, defeat aliens, all kinds of different things. And this relates to your final goal for the game. If you manage to get tokens on all 9 spaces of those mission cards, and then everyone in your group makes it back to the starting space, the entrance on the APC tile, you win the game.
However, that phase deck doesn't just have cards for your players, it also has these Xenomorph phase cards. Whenever these are revealed, you're going to move up this token on the track to the left. Now, whenever it hits this green symbol, that triggers a Xenomorph phase. The way that works is, first, you're going to see if any of the alien dice are in the same place as a player. If they are, for each dice there, they're going to deal 1 point of damage to the point man. That's the person on the far right of your board. Next, the aliens will move. If they are adjacent to a player, they're going to move to the player. If not, they're going to move 1 space towards the APC. Should they land on the APC, they have escaped. Usually, when you kill an alien, as we stated earlier, that returns to the dice pool. But if they escape, they return to the box. If too many aliens escape and you have to spawn alien dice and there are none left in the pool, you have lost the game. Finally, you're going to draw one of these tracking cards. These cards will spawn more dice and possibly have some other fun text for you to deal with. If that tracking deck runs out, you will also lose. And if you put in too many of the alien phase cards into the phase deck, that is another way for you to lose.
There's plenty of ways to lose in this game. Only one way to win. Of course, we are big fans of Aliens and the Alien franchise. So this is an exciting theme for both of us. And the game is relatively simple in terms of what you do and how you do it. It's mostly geared around rolling dice, which is a pretty tried and true mechanic in games, but it can be very difficult. I would say it can be tricky, and you might think at the beginning that you're on a roll. No pun intended. You're doing really well. You're killing all these aliens. You're finding objectives, but the longer the game goes, the more of those cards are being added in. The more xenomorph phases are being triggered. It can get very, very scary very quickly.
Oh, I forgot to mention, when those aliens escape, they move the track up. So it is very possible to just sort of chain phases together back to back when things get really rough.
Yes, which happened to us. And sometimes some of those tracking cards even have effects on them that might say redo a step of the phase, and you end up going from like, we have like 8 dice left, that's okay, to just all the aliens are just flying on the board. Very, very scary. You also have special abilities on all those characters, the named ones that you have, and those can really change the game in your approach. Generally speaking, it's really important to explore and find new tiles because you need those objective tokens to win. And obviously it's important to shoot because that's a big element, is kind of the board control aspect, because you don't want to run out of aliens.
It is actually really fun with those personalized name characters, not just because recognizing characters from the movie, but it really does help you be like, all right, these characters are much better for exploring, so we'll take care of that. Yours is really good at taking down aliens, whether it be like right next to them, or maybe it gets to take a few extra shots or something, meaning you're going to be pretty much on killing xenomorph patrol. It really helps sort of have players key into the roles that they should take in the game.
Yeah, I thought those were really nice because, again, the game itself feels very straightforward, but I think those character abilities may not seem like much at first, but they really do a lot to change up your tactics each game and make it feel very different, alongside the mission cards. Depending on, if we know we have this one mission card that allows us to move a bunch of aliens from one tile to another, then maybe we really want to try to actually steer them towards one tile together or something, or the way that we maneuver ourselves is going to change.
Yeah, because of those bonus effects you can get whenever you pick up any of the mission tokens, we came up with some really cool combos. Be like, we can pull them over here, and my character then gets to this bonus, which then triggers, and we can take them all out at once. This is definitely a game, I feel like, that, I don't know, just maybe unintentionally, but it really rewards everyone talking with each other. In particular, when there's one card that is every color, so you have to decide who gets that extra turn. So you'll have to discuss like, okay, we really want you to go ahead because you're the explorer, or maybe like, you need those extra actions to kill the aliens, because killing them is just a dice roll. And sometimes you just roll all blanks and feel great. Sometimes you get all wounds.
Yeah, the odds are in your favor. It's a 4 in 6 chance that you kill them. So you're going to be shooting a lot, and it's pretty likely you will kill them, but there's always the potential for things to go really badly. And like you said, discussing, how many alien cards are left in the deck? How many turns are left for you? And trying to determine who should do what and at what time. There is no hidden information from each other, from the players, other than what you don't know about the makeup of the decks. So you can feel free to discuss. I suppose it's possible in that sense you could run into an alpha game thing if that's an issue with your group. But I also think that the fact that your turns aren't set does something to offset that, because you can't just say, all right, you go here, you do this, then I'll do this. The deck is going to tell you whose turn is next.
Right.
You might get 3 turns in a row, or you might have to sit back and the thing that you were going to do, someone else might have to do it because you just can't wait anymore.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it helps fix the alpha game problem. Because when I think of something where there's set turns, even if, like, for example, a pandemic, you don't know when the epidemic phase is going to hit. It still is like, all right, we need to go here. You do this. On my turn, I'll do this. You turn, you do this, because you can see everyone's hand. In this, you're like, all right, I'm going to try to kill all the aliens. I might need some help if I roll all claws or something, which
Right.
inevitably that's what will happen.
Yeah, and there definitely are some times where you have a turn where it's just like, well, there's nothing happening where I am right now, and especially early on when your movement is very limited because you can only go so far. There just aren't enough tiles for you to get places right away. Sometimes you do kind of feel like, all right, this turn I'm just readying a person, and it can feel a little bit like I'm not accomplishing that much. But the turns do come up relatively quickly, and that's, I guess, the other side of that is that the turns go quick. So it's not like you're sitting there waiting for everyone else to go. Other than the shooting, it's like the one thing that will take a little bit of doing with rolling the dice. All of the actions are like, boom, I'm doing it, move on to the next guy. So it moves at a pretty quick pace.
That's actually one of the things I enjoy about this compared to some other Alien games. Not that I dislike those. This is definitely, I think, lighter and quicker. It's going to be one that you could probably set up a game and finish relatively fast, probably even fit 2 games in a regular session. Granted, that does sacrifice maybe some a bit more of the thematic things. You're not getting any alien pictures as much. Like even those Xenophase cards, they have quotes on them, but they're nothing really unique. And the aliens are represented by dice. But I think that is a trade-off for a quicker game that is probably worth it. Crits and misses for Aliens Bug Hunt.
Crits. This game is fairly light and accessible. It'll play quickly, but there's still enough of a challenge so it doesn't get boring.
It fits that perfect balance of not being too long or being too simple, such as Alien Yahtzee.
The different abilities that you'll have each game between your special unique characters as well as your missions will do a lot to change up your tactics and make it so you can't always use the same strategies.
Playing with a new character each time was a great experience as it would change up not only our own strategies, but how we would work together in order to defeat the Xenomorphs.
Because players' turn order is randomized by the phase deck, you never know exactly how any given round is going to go. It keeps things interesting, and it eliminates the possibility of one player taking over the game.
Each time the deck is reshuffled, you're not sure about who's going to trigger next, whether it's one of the players or even the alien xenomorph phase. This means you'll have to discuss each time and decide what is the most optimal strategy and maybe make some gambles and hoping that it's one of your own players' turns coming up next. Misses. Turns when you're able to find those objectives or able to shoot a bunch of xenomorphs feel great. But on the other hand, turns when you're forced to reload or you can't move to a space to explore a new area can be really disappointing.
Sometimes on your turns, you just won't have that much that you can or want to do, and when those turns come around back to back, you can feel like you aren't as engaged in the game.
A lot of the difficulty of this game will boil down to those dice rolls. While there is some challenge dealing with how the xenomorphs spawn and any extra text on the tracking cards, it really feels like you're going to be put into a pinch when you roll those dice and just can't get many kills.
The game is built so that you should be able to successfully kill off the xenomorphs in most of your encounters, but at the end of the day, it's a dice game. You're always going to run into some level of randomness, and there is a chance that you are just punished unfairly by those results.
In terms of important properties that mean a lot to me, the Alien franchise is very big, and personally, this game, I was actually surprised to hear about it because they already have the Alien Legendary Encounters game, which I am a big fan of. As for this game, I am pretty happy with it. I am disappointed that there really aren't any as much Alien figures or art. It's mostly just those dice and those one cards which have a quote on it. But in terms of actually gameplay, it was pretty enjoyable. I did have this feeling of playing as a group of soldiers running around trying to make it to these points, and I did enjoy it because it was sort of designed to be that quicker, lighter game, which, like I said in the crits, is very nice to have one that's maybe doesn't take your an hour or so.
Yeah, it definitely does give you that feeling of, being overwhelmed by a swarm of aliens. Maybe not in the thematic sense of, like you said, like cool art and minis and stuff, but in the way that the gameplay develops, you still get that same kind of impending dread that's getting worse and worse and worse. So in that sense, I think it's really effective. And yeah, like you said, as an Alien fan, I think they did a good job. It's not going to be that super thematic experience, but it's still a fun game in its own right. even if you don't really know anything about the Aliens franchise. Now, we played this together with the two of us. It goes up to 4 players. You can also play it as 1 player. There's not any special rules. You just use just 1 squad figurine, and the game balances out a little bit because there are fewer of those Xenomorph cards in your starting deck. But it just occurred to me too, we didn't try this, but I think another fun way to play this if you just have 2 players would just be to have each person controlling 2 different squad characters, which could alleviate some of that. Like if you have just kind of a dead turn, it's more likely one of your other characters will be able to do something fun in that case. Because it's cooperative, you can kind of play with those things, or as a solo player, just control 4 characters all at once and just see how that goes if you keep track of all the cards and things. There's different options there. If you are interested in the nitty-gritty, more details about exactly how this game works, we also put together a how to play video on our channel, so you can get the full rundown of the mechanics there. Otherwise, let us know in the comments if you've had the chance to play Aliens Bug Hunt, or what you would like to see in an Aliens game, or what you think about this one.
Yes, you can let us know in those comments down below. And why not leave us your favorite Aliens quote as well? There are plenty to choose from.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Until we see you again on the other side, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
This was Roll for Crit.
Never miss out by liking and subscribing. And you can also check out more on our Patreon.
We do weekly podcasts on Patreon. Don't you want to sign up and hear more of our voices?